Hey people, I'm sure you're expecting to see my chief wife, Kike, but she wears double hats and in Abuja, running some trainings in Abuja. But I'm here to keep us informed. My name is Marshall Anthony Onoye. Ceteris paribus, a maxim frequently used to mean all things being equal. However, not in all cases are things being equal. So also the fluctuations that are experienced by business and politics peak period not being equal. Excellent afternoon, viewers. You're on to another interesting edition of Real Talk with Kike. And like I said earlier, the convener of the show, Kike Atanda-Owo, isn't here today, but my name is Marshall Anthony Onoye. I don't know why I should have added, but, and I'm with my girlfriend, Lolo One.
Yes, exciting to be here with you. Together, we'll be doing this together on the show today.
You look lovely, you look red, you look, invitingly reddish.
Wow, thank God I have to, eat your compliments by myself today. I don't get to share.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, your favorite lunch hour show. We're going to be here today to make sure that you get a lot of information and we'll entertain you at the same time. My name is Omotunde Adebowale David, a.k.a. Lolo One.
I think Moses saw the flower behind you and he kind of placed you there. It sort of complements, what you're putting on it.
Oh my God, everybody's been complimenting me today. I must have gotten something right with the color.
It is. Well, exactly a year ago, Shell became liable for some of the environmental pollution in the Niger Delta region. Let's take a look at our Today on History, and then we'll come back with Lolo, my girlfriend, in the studio, and then banter a little bit about that. Here is Today in History.
On this day in history, January 20, 2021, exactly 1 year ago, a Dutch court ruled that Shell's Nigerian subsidiary, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria, SPDC, was liable for oil pollution in several farming and fishing communities in the Niger Delta region, where many families are Catholic. This is a victory for the people and for a region which has been so badly affected by pollution, said Father Paul Nsuka, the priest of the Port Harcourt Diocese, which has over 1 million Catholics. The water, farmlands, and other sources of livelihood of the people have been largely affected because some of the cheap games, and the government over the years has been paying lip service to issues of pollution by multinational oil companies affecting its citizens, he added. Besides holding the Nigerian subsidiary responsible, the Court of Appeals in The Hague ruled that Shell, which is based in Holland, had breached its duty of care in its operations abroad. It ordered the subsidiary to pay compensation to the farmers and begin cleanup of the polluted areas.
There you have it on our This Day in History, talking about the environmental pollution and some of the health hazards caused by oil exploration in that region. Lola, you want to take a swipe first?
At those times, those were very, very traumatic times for me, just reading about the devastation of the land of the people, their source of livelihood. The waters were polluted, all the fish, their source of livelihood was gone, people were getting sick, there was no education in that region, there was no development. So many things happened in the Niger Delta at those times that, when we look back in history, I'm wondering, is there a lot any better? Maybe a little, but I don't see the giant strides that we've made in rearranging that region. They're still fighting to be recognized. They're still fighting against marginalization. They say we bring oil to the table, then we should be able to enjoy, some little dividends of what our lands give us. And it's still a battle. And I'm wondering whether there is an end in sight, because right now, even at the moment, a lot of terrorism came to the region. So, some groups started to come up, to try and fight for the people. But of course, it started to have K-leg and bow legs and everything here and there. Right now, even many oil companies are pulling out of the country. So I'm wondering, would you say we have found something to resolve Niger Delta issues?
Well, I wouldn't say we've found something to resolve it. As a matter of fact, the problems seem to be escalating more. If you've been to Port Harcourt recently, you'll find that one thing that is very disturbing is the spike in soot. You know, this soot thing, this air pollution thing has continued to spike the cases of asthma, spike the cases of children with respiratory problems, you know, even cardiovascular problems for adults. So I'd say it's something that the government needs to really, really, really look back and redress with, settle with this multinational companies doing oil exploration in the region and see how they can pay back and get some restoration to the environment there.
You know, you saying that, I'm actually thinking you are helping somebody write manifesto. I just slot that in that I'm going to resolve the issues of Niger Delta and make sure that the air pollution and all the devastation in the place, you know, we're going to redress it.
Whether you render services or you're into goods and commodity production, I'm sure we all were impacted by drastically and the drastic business changes since the heat of the COVID-19 period. It was a tale of adjustments for many economies, including that of Nigeria, realigning after the pressure and the debacle of the pandemic. Looking forward into the new year, many Nigerians are hoping for a relief and ease in everyday business, which is continually disrupted by inflation, exchange rates, and a number of many economic indices. Speaking about economic indices, the government remains a central factor, and with regards to the government, politicians and politics play dependent roles on the outcomes of our business environment. Now, on today's show, we are analyzing our local businesses and its terrain with reference to the political environment precedent to the 2023 election. I'm sure you'll agree with me that there are uncertainties when it comes to the outcome of politics in Nigeria. Now, to discuss our topic on the show is a learned guest and a business strategist, Dipo Oyewole, who is an economic strategist and a social commentator. You're welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Now, we do know that, like I read earlier in the introduction of the program, how the pandemic has surmounted pressure, or rather put pressure on businesses around the world,
yes,
not just in Nigeria. And some businesses are already re-strategizing post-COVID-19 with the leftovers of what's left of their economy. I'd ask you the question as to how you think businesses should begin to re-navigate, you know, post-COVID-19.
Well, either we like it or not, COVID has been here for a while, and it may still be with us for some time. So I'll advise businesses to look at the practical realities in their prevailing environment. Now, different environments have different factors that are responsible for business growth and what affects them. So yes, they need to look inward to see what the practical realities are within their own immediate business environment to see how they can thrive in spite of it all. Interestingly, now there will have to be a lot of trial and error because, I mean, we haven't had anything this massive globally in our own lifetimes. So yes, there'll have to be a lot of trial and error to see what works, what doesn't work. And so in some cases, you may have to throw the entire textbook away to see how we can write the new script. But yes, there will be a lot of trial and error. But yes, it is possible to make businesses grow. It is possible to do well in COVID.
Yeah, you know, talking about businesses, especially local businesses, that a lot of factors affect us in Nigeria, because I always say Nigeria, things don't happen the way it should. This is a very, very peculiar country. And at the moment, we are experiencing some kind of inflation. How do business position themselves with the rise and fall of the Naira, especially those that have to do business that are international in nature, to be able to stabilize and be able to find themselves in these current realities?
Well, I believe that for businesses that do a lot of international transactions, have learned how to hedge their entire business around different things. So you know that's the kind of economy we run. That's today the Naira is this, the Naira is tomorrow, it's something else. And I mean, in the last couple of years, it's been very erratic, where you have a lot of people record a lot of losses. And I mean, a lot of losses. You procure goods abroad at a certain amount. By the time it lands in Nigeria, it's a totally different ballgame. So there are a lot of businesses that are struggling with that challenge. However, I believe that with a lot of business practitioners in Nigeria and how they've been able to navigate it so far, and how COVID has also taught people how to adjust and to adapt to the prevailing conditions of the current business environment, I believe that a lot of businesses will be fine. It may take a while. They will struggle because that is a reality. They will struggle because we also have to understand that, inflation aside, bargaining power too is an issue.
Yes.
People's earning capacity is an issue.
Same.
Is an issue. So it's not just about the FX. It's about whatever you're pricing your product or service. Can people actually afford it? Because you have to also price it in a way that you also don't record a loss. So while you're pricing it at a rate where you have to make a profit, the question is, can people also afford it? So it's a dance that we're hoping to see, and that we're hoping to have both sides win, in terms of the consumers and the service providers.
Now
or the
we're
producers.
talking about how businesses should do things differently, and especially post-COVID-19, and we'll be also beginning to see businesses come to or individuals and people come to the realization that, look, just in a single shop, we just might find ourselves in this kind of scenario again where everything goes south.
Yes.
That's for individuals. But now let's look at it from a broader scope and perspective, talking about countries and governments. We've barely seen the Nigerian government do anything differently. Pre-COVID-19, we had the trader money, we had all sorts of programs meant to alleviate the poverty in the country, And then post-COVID-19, while you're trying to get things done, Kike is up and running in Abuja and trying to make ends meet. Lolo is hitting left, right, and center. We've really not seen so much from the government of the day trying to say, look, we're putting this to cushion the effect and to have a robust economy.
Pardon me for chuckling, but you remember in recent time a report came out that there were 460 duplicated projects in the budget, going to the tune of 380 billion naira. So I think that in itself answers the question, because if you have a serious leadership anywhere around the world, would that be what we're having to grapple with right now? 380 billion naira duplicated projects. Now, those are the ones I believe they were able to discover. There were some that must have fallen within the cracks. But 380 billion naira would solve a lot of our challenges in power, in healthcare, in security, in education. Mind you, all of these line items are already listed, have already been accounted for legitimately in the budget.
In the budget.
So now I'm saying this bonus money, per se, that may be what you budgeted for all those line items or those peculiar challenges that we have in this country. How about we add them to it? But that's not what we're seeing. I mean, at 460 projects for 380 billion naira, let's assume all the projects cost the same thing, an average of 800 million naira. And then you find out what the projects are, and then it's going to be maybe sinking 2 boreholes somewhere where they're not going to have a working pumping machine, or you have the boreholes working, there's not an overhead tank for 800 million naira. So practically what we've seen in various levels of our government are people who aren't very deliberate about making sustainable change in the lives of people. I'm not sure if they really understand what the objective of the objectives of their offices are, but so far I don't see them being very serious about this issue of leadership, because we've seen different leaders around the world where people are being deliberate about leadership, how people are different palliative programs, seeing how they can open their economies up. I mean, in the Middle East, for example, there are different countries that erstwhile they would seem to be a bit shut off from the world. Maybe women weren't allowed to do certain things. No. Now they're being flexible about certain things because they have practical economic realities. So everybody is trying to adapt. The way we talked about businesses earlier and individuals trying to adapt and having to come to the realization that, you know what, every opportunity has to be seized to ensure that we grow economically and we survive and thrive as a nation. Unfortunately, those aren't the things we see in Nigeria. And for me, it really begs the question of, what are we really doing? Because part of the factors we need to look at for an economic outlook for any nation around the world is global competitiveness. Do we have leaders that see Nigeria being in a competition against other nations? Because either we like it or not, we don't exist in a vacuum. We exist within the Committee of Nations. But are we being competitive? Are we saying that in the next 5 years, this is what we want to do? We want to be best in this. Yesterday, I saw a news report where someone in the government, can't remember the person's title now, said that by the year, try to get this right, I think year 2026, that Nigeria will then surpass Ghana and another nation in cocoa export. Look at where we're coming from. with cocoa. Now we're talking about this in 2022.
And in 2026,
That in 2026, that's when we just want to surpass Ghana.
Pathetic if you ask me, but I'm sure Lola has got one.
I was going to ask you, because now that you're talking about our grappling economic realities, that is not positive for the common man. It's really, really, really stressful out there on the streets. I'm looking at our rising debt profile. It's crippling the nation. And I need to say that post-COVID, pre-COVID, during COVID, we have found out that SMEs practically run this country.
Oh, yes.
Their strength increased. The GDP, the monies that were coming in were coming from small businesses.
Oh, yes.
And yet these businesses are not helped. What do? Banks that are supposed to fund businesses give SME the push to be able to push their businesses from from small scale to medium scale in the list. They can't get money and funding from them. And yet the country as a whole, we are in debt. What is the future for these small businesses? How are we to grow? Because I don't know how small businesses are going to... You can't just start a small business and expect it to remain small and be able to add economic value.
Of course.
There must be an upward projection.
Yes.
But for the small businesses in the country, what do you think is the future for them?
Well, I'll try to be optimistic about it, because I know there are a lot of people who are watching this program and we can't afford to
demoralize
because
them further.
So either like it or not, there are a lot of people out there in the country who, for all intents and purposes, are quite
resourceful.
Hopeless. No,
Oh,
I'm getting there.
oh,
I'm getting
okay.
there. There's a huge sense of hopelessness with a lot of things that we see. I mean, in the open market today, the price of Gary, the price of... So I have it on good authority that there are a lot of families that the last time they ate egg was last Easter.
You can't be wrong.
Now, maybe they ate this last Christmas, because now we're in January, because it jumped from 800 naira per crate to 13 to 15 to 16, 17, depending on the area you live.
2,000.
It's 2,200 now.
It's been a while. So it's been a while.
2,200.
It's been a while that I bought. I mean, pains of Gary is maybe 1518 thereabouts. Yam flour is 35 thereabouts, and
Fish, meat.
let's not go there.
Oh my God.
And we also need to understand that employers aren't increasing salaries because of their own economic realities as well. A lot of people are losing their jobs in COVID. A lot of people are getting paid half of their salaries, because some of them work from home. Even those who still work at the office, the employers are telling them, okay, you know what, half is better than none. Can you make do with half? So these are the realities we have to face. But back to your question about how SMEs will survive, I believe that some way, somehow, we will find a way to adapt, because it's difficult to give one blueprint or one clear direction because of the time we have and because of the various industries and various businesses we're talking about. But I believe that as we go along with the economic realities we have and the political realities we have as well, because I mean there's an election cycle around corner, and that would also affect certain businesses or a lot of businesses in a lot of ways.
I need to engage your mind a little, because now they're saying, I recently saw some funny thing about some woman dancing where pyramids of rice, in the country and celebrating. And I'm wondering that our local farmers are suffering because of insecurity.
Yes.
A lot of them cannot even go to farm.
Oh, yes.
And yet they're saying that they don't want us to import into the country. That makes people want to cut corners. And that makes things more expensive.
Yes.
Would you say that this policy of, okay, we want to stop importation of these basic things, what impact would you say it has had on anything?
Okay, so this is it. Most of the government policies that we have in recent time are a bit mostly half-baked, and this is why I say that. So we're a huge fan of the rhetoric of, oh, we must buy local, buy local. Of course, we can't buy local. But the question is, can the local supply, can the local production sustain the local demand? Yes, so because in the end, business is about demand and supply. That's business 101, that's the fundamentals. So yes, whatever we are producing internally, can it sustain us internally? And with regards to the rice pyramid, I mean, I saw where a lot of people were touting it as Was it the tallest or the biggest rice pyramid?
Oh,
and then I asked, who else is doing it in 2022? Because for you to say that you're the first at something means somebody else is doing it. Somebody else is
Biggest rice
second.
pyramids.
Are we talking about, did you remember the
stomachs.
granite
Yes.
pyramids that
Pyramid
we
in the-
came, when I was growing, we saw the
Yes.
pictures in books. Can we compare it to
So now
something
we're
they
going back-
built some wood to?
You know, there's so much about the rice pyramid, and I think in the coming days, as the elections
We
draw
shall
closer,
know.
yes, we'll get to see. But let me just bring in our viewers here. I'd like to say that you can join us on the show and drop your 1 cent on the matter. Call us. Numbers to call should be up on your screen. We'd like to know what you make of this. Our guest is an economist, a business expert, and together we're looking at the business environment post-COVID-19 and pre-2023 general elections. He is Dipo Oyewole. So call us and let's have your thoughts. Numbers to call, I think, should be up already on your screen. I think numbers to call already up on your screen. In case you're just joining us, today's conversation is about our business environment and the concerns of our pilots taking the affairs of the country we expect progressively to the future. I just mentioned before the break, 2023 is around the corner and would expect some gimmicks and politicking.
Yes.
While we're on that break, before the break, Lola did speak about the rice pyramids and all of that in comparison with the granite pyramids we had and what impact those pyramids are having in the economy. And I was saying, oh yeah, they're trying to make a record out of it.
Yes.
The highest or tallest
perfect.
rice pyramid.
Are we going to ever?
And I was saying the tiniest stomachs as well, because people have been saying, if you've got this so much rice, rather than make news about how tall they are, why don't you make news about how much you've distributed? The country that has distributed the most rice in its, to its people in the shortest time and all of that. For me, it's in favor of the 2023 general elections. We're expecting to see more. Dipo, you're a Nigerian. You've been in Nigeria for a while, and you know how the politicking or the electioneering periods come. Do you see any economic advantage coming with the gimmicks of politics?
In certain circles, there will be. In certain circles that work within the value chain of what constitute campaigns. For example, we know that this is the time where printers get to shine.
Yes.
Okay.
Print T-shirts.
Printers,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah,
Printers,
so yes, so I won't say no entirely, but in the largest scale of the economy of the country, I would say not exactly, because historically we know
It's
that
just a time for handouts. When
Yes.
they hand out.
yes, so we know that historically, from how we like to run elections, whenever the election period is around the corner, the campaign windows are open. For all those in office, governance practically stops. Because the entire focus then shifts to having to be on campaign grounds, having to distribute whatever it is they have to distribute to try to convince people to vote for their political party, their candidates themselves, and all of that. But I believe that it's, so you were talking about the rice pyramids and then having to take pictures instead of having to distribute it or make sure that you inject it into the market to see that the prices crash. That, for me, also tells us the kind of leadership system we like to run. The leadership system that is about them, not about us. Because if the priority of the government is about seeing that people have enough food.
People, I hate to interrupt your line of thought, but Obafemi from Osun State has been on the line for a while. Good to have you, Obafemi from Osun State. What are your thoughts?
Hello?
Good to have you. Could you please turn down the volume of your TV and speak with us?
I've done it.
Fantastic,
All right.
Obafemi. Good to have you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm about family. The discussion people are discussed. Is it really affecting people? I mean, is it really going to our government? Because I thought all this and our government should be able to listen to you people. Is it affecting them? Are they really concerned about the people of this country? How come the rate that they are selling at the rate of 600 naira before is going up to 2,200 naira? It's unfair in this country. Are we talking on this scale alone, or are they concerned about it? Are we just talking alone?
Thank you very much, Obafemi. Let's let you go now. Your question is if the government,
Is
the people
really
in power are really
listening.
listening. We can't stop talking.
We
You
have
know.
to keep
I hope you remember
amplifying.
your line of thoughts.
Yes, and I'd like to talk about what
Please
we've
shoot.
talked about. That yes, on some level, they tune into these programs, they listen, because I'm on
Yes.
other platforms as well. But the question is, are they taking it to heart?
Into cognizance.
But like you rightly said, we will keep talking. We cannot stop talking. Yesterday we heard the news about having to walk back the entire issue around removing the subsidy. We have been talking about this for months. We've talked about it on different programs, different platforms. So we'll keep talking. We have to keep talking. Will things move as fast as we want them to go or as fast as we're talking? It may not happen as much. It must not happen as quick. But yes, we will keep talking. Back to what I was saying about, back to what I was saying about the rice pyramid and all of that, about the government of self and the kind of government we like to run. That it is about them, it isn't about us. But because if the priority is about injecting that amount of rice into the economy to see how you can crash the price
Sustain the people.
of rice, because we also need to understand that we have a nation where like 43 to 45% are below the poverty line. That is around 90 million people. Now, 90 million souls. Now, I can bring out the map for you and tell you how many nations I need to combine together
To be able to
to get 90 million
Million
people.
people.
These are people. Sovereign nations have valid international passports, have military, have functional governments, are recognized by the United Nations, have their own citizens, have actual living people. Combine at least 10 of them together to get 90 million. Those are the people we have under the poverty line. And then what we're celebrating is having to stack up bags of rice together to show that we can stack up rice in 2022. So that for me tells us where the actual priority of our government lies, which is why I said in the beginning that are we sure that we have a serious government? Do we have people who are serious-minded
Yeah.
at the helm of affairs
You
of this
know,
nation?
Well, Dipo, I was looking, now that we're even talking about 2023, that is where I wanted to just begin to look at. Because that seems to be the next hope that we have. This government is already running to an end, and we're about to have a new incoming. What kind of policies, like if you had the power to sway, like, oh, Mr. Dipo Oyewole is put on a committee and you have the power to be able to
The
say
next economic strategic
strategy.
committee.
What, just even if they want to steal it off you, we can give them that dash. What would you say a right thinking incoming presidential aspirant should be looking at to sell to us as a people as economic way forward?
Lola, I suspect that somebody's already contracting you as a media aide and you want to begin to steal ideas.
Possibly.
You know.
But first, I believe that before we talk about the economics of it all, we need to have someone that we can trust.
That's a tall order.
Because there's a lot of trust deficit between the people and the government, and it's a chasm that has only grown wider and wider with this current government because of lack of effective communication. So, I mean, when you don't communicate, you leave room for a lot of speculation. Which, I mean, so like you said, this particular administration is winding down, and we're not seeing a lot of difference from how things were when they started. But yes, before we talk about the economics, the question is, can we trust this person? So the trust is around what exactly? Can we trust that person with our economy? Because that directly affects our lives.
Everyone.
Can we trust that person with the education of our children because they are the future of our nation? Can we trust the person with our infrastructure? Because those are the things that make sure that we live with a certain level of dignity in our society. So can we trust that person beyond all the rhetoric? Because you can say that you look for people with sound economic advice. They can hire a brilliant team around them, give them good sound bites. They come for the debates, they tell you all you need to hear, and then they get into office, and then it's all out the window. But the question is, can we trust you, irrespective of whatever it is
Whatever you're bringing to the table.
that your team has been able to research for you? Can we trust you with our lives? Because enough really is.
But
But are you
let's
one-
say, yeah.
Are you one of those that actually share the opinion that we really need like a difference in our politicking now, that you think that younger people can actually do
In
that?
answering that, also sandwich it with this. Let's say the trust is there, and then you're talking about strategies, economic strategies that would grow the economy and grow the nation at large, you know, what would be your pointers?
Okay, yes. So with regards to the younger aspirants, I believe for me competence also matters. Competence also matters. It's not, yes. So we need fresh blood. We need younger people in political office at various levels, but we also need competent people. It's not just about the age now, because I see a lot of us having to get carried away with, okay, you want younger people in office, and then we're not looking at competence per se, which for me is very key, because you get there, you're not competent, then you make a mess of the place, and then the other folks come to say, oh, you wanted a young person in office.
Yeah, see.
So understanding that the implication of you being in office means that you open more doors, or you shut the only one door that's been made available. So that is why we need to also look at competence as a very key factor. Back to your question about
Your point is economic strategies.
economic strategies.
Before you go on, let me remind our viewers that our phone lines are still open. Feel free to call us, punch those lines. Let's have your thoughts. Dipo Oyewole is an economic strategist and a business expert. He's in the studio. Together, we're talking post-COVID-19, the Nigerian economy, ahead of the 2023 general elections. Let's have your 1 cent, Dipo.
Yes, so back to talk about economic strategies. I believe that in Nigeria, we've had different economic strategies without us addressing a lot of the underlying issues that we have. What about education? What about issues of security? Because whatever economic policies you have or economic strategies that you have, when people can't go to the farms, when people can't conduct their businesses safely, you get grounded out economically because there's a productivity being injected into the system. So whatever policies you're making without security being firm on the ground, they'll make a nonsense of it. How about we look at the education? Because having an educated populace means that we have a better chance of having a more productive population.
That, because don't you know that poverty is weaponized? Because if you're asking them to educate the people, you're asking them to be emancipated.
Exactly, which is something
Hold your
that...
thoughts there. Pastor Monday is calling us from the ancient city of Benin. Welcome, Pastor Monday. What are your thoughts? Could you turn down the volume of your TV, Pastor Monday from Benin?
Can you hear us?
Can we give you one more chance? Turn down the volume and let's have your contribution, Pastor Monday.
All right. Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm doing that already. Yes, good afternoon.
Point, sir.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right, please. Thank you for this program. My thought and my concern as regards the economy of this nation is the fact that we're already having inflation in our economy right now. And the federal government also have approved to hike the price of fuel by first week of February. So I am already concerned the effect that will also have on our economy. I don't know what percentage of inflation we have at the moment. And if the fuel price is hiked up by almost 100%, don't you think that will even worsen the situation at the moment? And we get to a point that people cannot even use transport. They can't even afford to buy any commodity.
We'll let you go now, Pastor Monday. Your problem is the proposed, I think it's still at the proposal level, but let's leave that until we get to trending, because it will form one of our trending stories. So just stay tuned, Pastor Monday, and hopefully you'll get your feedback from here. So you were talking about, the question was hoping that education, you were saying education is weaponized, and he was going to...
Poverty is weaponized.
Poverty has been weaponized effectively as well.
Oh, yes.
It's been very effective. So that's why, back to your question where you said if I had the authority or if I was in a room where we could talk about these things, that's why we had to address it from that foundational level, because we also need to understand that an emancipated mind is a mind that has a lot of potential to be productive. It's not just about going through the four walls of a school. It's not about getting into polytechnics or universities. No, There are a lot of nations of this world where they don't even necessarily encourage their citizens to even go into higher institutions. It's Nigerians that end up going there and then get all the master's degree, PhDs, and all of that. But it is important that we understand that when we're talking about economic policies or building a strong economy, we need a very vibrant, productive workforce. Understanding that we also have a nation where close to 70% of their population is a youth population, which means they're a productive population.
Creative.
But how much are we harnessing that particular resource, aside from the natural resources that we have? So how much are we harnessing those resources to see that they are actively engaged, and then we can gain productively from them? And back to the question the last caller asked, inflation currently is, I think, 15.92% as of November 2021. Yes, so that's that. So for me, it's not just about the fancy policies, but we need to start from education.
Let's take Godfrey from Edo State. Godfrey, I hope you've turned down the volume of your TV as we take your call. Godfrey from Edo State, welcome.
Yes, hello.
Let's have your contribution quickly.
Yes, what I'm saying, in view of what you have said, this service, the 2023 election coming and the post COVID-19. Now, for the election, the government has outgrown the citizen. Take note, the government has outgrown the citizen. They are not waiting for the citizen's election. So anything that comes to our way as a citizen, we are going to bear it. Then two, I saw you talking about trust. The area of trust in Nigeria now is a little down because there's a syndrome that opportunity comes but one. If you even employ me in your business now, I'm looking for one way or the other to make it within a day. So everybody is already having the syndrome of eating it at all costs. So if there is no trust, and two, the government has got the people, they are not bothered whether the election, the people will vote or not, because they are going to get. So you can see the post-COVID-19 problem, and also the election coming, the problem is still going to be on us. There's nothing to talk about. So thank you.
From Edo State, with that call would come to the end of the phone call section of the show. We thank Godfrey from Edo State, Monday from Benin, and I think Oyewole from Osun State, Obafemi from Osun State. We want to say thank you for calling. And I think at this juncture, what I'll take from you when in trying to get an agenda from you as the head of an economic team of the next government, so to speak, I'll take first, you say security, and secondly, you say education. I think that's what I'd want to point out as your contributions. I'd like to say a very huge thank you for finding out time to banter with us on our set on the Real Talk with Kike show. Yes, Lola, I think it's a wrap for him on this segment.
Well, it's a wrap for him, but he's not going anywhere because we are going to totally involve you in the trending stories, because we like to take stories that affect everybody on social media, things that we're talking about. So we're going to be, reeling out some of those stories so that we can get your take on it also.
And while I take the first story, Lola will be taking the second one. The first one is on Osinbajo's led Economic Council recommending fuel increase by the first week of February, which I think Monday from Benin raised that concern. And he said once that happens, he's thinking already, he doesn't know the statistics for inflation, but he's already thinking inflation is going to be high on the roof and all of that. What's your take?
Well, I think it will be a very huge mistake because, we talked about subsidy earlier. So for the longest time, we're talking about removal of fuel subsidy, and as much as we may say it's the right thing, but it's the wrong time. I'll give you an example. So for example, you're married, there's a woman you're madly in love with, both of you love each other, you plan to get married, and then for some reason she calls you up, oh, I need you offset now, leave the air, let's have lunch somewhere. And then first thing she says to you is that she lost her dad. And then the next thing that comes out of the mouth is, will you marry me? How do you think that's going to go? Was that the right thing to do?
Probably to replace her dad.
So was that the right thing to do? Yes. Was it the wrong time? No.
It was the wrong time.
Was the wrong time,
was the wrong time, which made it the wrong thing to do. Yes, but up until then, both of you understood that that question was going to come. But it was the wrong time. That is how I see this entire conversation around hiking the fuel price, because you hike the fuel price, cost of transportation will go up, which would affect cost of food. Where people aren't
Which will
earning as
affect
much.
already affected cost of food.
So now we're talking about getting Gary for maybe 1.5. It goes to maybe like 3,000, 3,500. And mind you, as of the middle of last year, when the entire thing jacked up, we had a lot of families who were, even before that, doing 2 meals a day, who had to drop to 1 meal a day. So are we not going to have families who are going to be doing 1 meal in 2 days?
2 days.
Because we need to look at the actual practical realities of these policies on the lives of people. Not just coming out to say that, okay, the GDP is this number is that. Aside from the data, yes, data is good, but aside from the data, what practical realities are people facing in their day-to-day lives? Because we know for a fact, as part of the data that they like to quote, that over 90 million Nigerians live below the poverty line, which for me, I believe is conservative. With another, I believe 53 million being vulnerable. Now, vulnerable means that you can wake up tomorrow morning, Friday, and then you slip down there. And we know that we have a disappearing middle class.
Yes.
So are we being serious about how we're running the country? Because you want to increase the fuel price for what purpose exactly? To raise revenue. Revenue that what will be done with it? To be injected back into the system, into the educational system of security? We're not very sure.
Well, let me hear your thoughts on the increase.
What can we say? We've been hearing about this removal of subsidy for so long. What really makes me sad is the fact that this government cannot just take a position. Imagine if we bailed these cards the time they started touting it. People would probably have been adjusting to the realities now. Now that things are even more difficult, this is such a wrong time to even suggest it. No matter how good the intentions are, the people can never take it as positive. It's going to affect everybody negatively. Trust me.
And sorry, another thing with that is taking up the subsidy. The issue a lot of people have is now the money you're taking out of it.
Where is it going?
Where's it going?
Where's the money from the subsidy going?
Because remember, we just talked about 380 billion naira being stacked along, and that is the culture of how our finances are being run.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing if we're very sure that the money is going to be injected back into the system,
into the economy,
where it's going to benefit our lives. And
we know it won't. So moving on. Moving on.
Well, let's move on to our second trending stories. Lolo, what is it?
All right, our second trending story is about the famous, or should I say infamous, Nnamdi Kanu. We hear that the court have declared Nnamdi Kanu's arrest as illegal, and they've ordered the Nigerian government to pay 1 billion naira.
yes.
Okay, so first of all, for me, Lolo, why do some people call it Kalo?
Oh, I think it's
not-
Kanu.
It's kind
And I think this
Nnamdi
like the
Kanu.
second or third time I'm hearing you call it Nnamdi Kalo.
Kanu is Kanu.
Nnamdi Kanu.
Kanu.
Yeah.
Okay, the new
The least you can do is Kanu.
Kanu.
At least you know
Nnamdi
that
Kanu.
one. Yes, not Kalo. And one thing about that story, it's not the court declaring his detention illegal. It's the 1 billion is a compensation for
Yeah, for
invading his father's compound, his home. So I think the court is saying that he should be granted 1 billion naira as compensation for that illegal
arrest.
invasion, not the arrest.
Not the arrest.
The invasion of the home.
Invasion.
Yes. So you remember in 2017, September, they invaded, the Army
Yes.
Joint Task
Yes.
Force invaded, and then he was now said to have jumped bail. But his claim is that he was running from that, the outcome of that invasion. So what do you make of that?
Oh, well, we know that the army has swiftly responded, saying that they will have to take a look at the entire judgment to see if they'll be paying that money.
Appealing the judgment.
They'll be appealing the judgment as well. So, for me, I think we should just wait to see how the whole thing shakes out, because it may be a bit premature to say that this is where the pendulum will swing with issues like this, especially because now the army is saying that they're going to appeal it. But yes, there also needs to be some form of deterrent to these kinds of modes of arrest or apprehension of suspects, because in the end, where anybody who is allegedly accused of a crime is innocent until proven guilty by a court of law, not just busting into their homes or their places of residence under the assumption that they are guilty already. So yes, we need to have this kind of precedence being set, because either you like it or not, It could be either of us tomorrow. So we need to have these conversations and make sure that the precedent is being set, that, okay, this is not how to go about things. You do it this way, it costs you this and that. So yes, we need to be very firm on that.
I think I like the idea of the way you put it. If you do it this way, it'll cost you this and that, and they will then refrain from that. But we've also seen where courts rule for reprimand certain agencies, like we've seen in the case of Sunday Igboho, who was also granted 500 million naira as compensation for the evasion of his home by the DSS, and up until now, we haven't heard that money has been paid.
Of course, they'll drag it out.
You know, Lola, what do you make of this?
Well, we're going to have to sit it out because it will go to court. Definitely, there will be probably contesting this particular order from the courts. And you know, in Nigeria, you have to just sit and wait. But as you know, law is about precedent. If we're able to get a breakthrough with this kind of high-profile case, that forms another bulk of precedent for lawyers to be able to, you know, in the future, attend to such things happening. And maybe that would deter them eventually.
Okay, I just hope all of this put a reprieve and gives a relief to the people, the indigenous people of Biafra seeking their own sovereign state. I just hope that the seat at home that has persisted over time can be relaxed. I hope the incessant killing and nonsensical killings in the East can also be relaxed by whoever, or non-gunmen or IPOP, whoever is perpetrating this, all in the name of, or in the guise of freeing Nnamdi Kanu. They can now begin to see that the legal system is taking it's having its way. On that note, I think I can say we have confidently and conveniently come to the end of the show. Lolo.
What a pleasant show. We've had very intelligent and very articulate guests we've had. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again on Tuesday when we get on Real Talk.
And I'd like to say a very big thank you to Kike Lomo Atanda-Owo, who's away
Mama.
in Abuja and doing all that she can to get things going. I'd like to say we miss you, and I'm sure by next episode of the show she would be here paddling the affairs of the show. Dipo, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you for having
me. My
me.
name is Marshall Anthony Onoye. Forget everything you heard here today. Don't forget my name. God bless you.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Selfish.